You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Sunday, October 6th. Arizona brought the heat to the 49ers today, I guess. We just saw the 49ers collapse in embarrassing fashion once again, just like they did a couple of weeks ago, lost 23-24. Joining me today to talk about this disaster of a loss is Adam. I don't even know what to say because, at one point, the 49ers were up by 10. I know the Cardinals aren't a second half team. I know this. I was looking at the trends for them this season so far. They have a great opening script, which they did in this game, the Cardinals being, and I don't know, it just felt like they ran away with the game in the second half, and the 49ers, just like we've seen too many times before, not able to put teams away, especially bad teams. We're not even talking about a good team. We're not even talking about a good Arizona Cardinals team. And yet, they have the same record as the 49ers do right now. What do you make of this?
Man, what do you make of this? Well, I mean, it felt like a Murphy's Law game, right? Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. I mean, when your kicker twists his leg in a different direction, that who knows what's going to happen to Jake Moody. Really feel bad for the guy. That was just kind of a sign of the times, right? And that greatly, you can practice all you want, right? In practice, right? Nothing really prepares you. Great. Hey, good job. Hey, you got to go score points. And by the way, you don't have a kicker. So, figure that one out, right? Now, are they good enough to do that? Yes. And should they have done more on offense? Yes. But Mike fell down.
That's kind of like the 49ers, just
kind of like the 49ers.
The ball a little bit.
I'd have to have one hand on the mic today, but yeah, it's just, it's a story of, you got the Mason fumble, you got the kicker going down, you got the defense feeling the heat, so to speak, in the second half. That was a defense that looked worn down, missing tackles, getting sloppy. I've seen it many times before myself, and but they're the last person to blame right now. It's the story is the Niners not converting, on those tries in the red zone, right? What's the difference? A year ago, they're 100% efficiency. And today they're 1 for 5, 1 for 6, right? So tough state of affairs right now, Steph.
Yeah, 1 for 6 in the red zone for the 49ers. We talked about the fact, Jake Moody obviously getting hurt on that one return in this, second half or the first half? It was the first half, right? So pretty early in the game. And so I think to myself, okay, well, that means the offense needs to come through and score points, which they did not. They had the one touchdown, 1 for 6, as we mentioned, the one touchdown to George Kittle. Great, awesome, not enough. Just simply not enough. And I got to say, this was not a good game from Brock. It really wasn't. And, we needed a good game from Brock, especially as we're talking about Moody going down in this game. Your defense starts to, lose some things in the second half. And that's when your offense needs to come through. 2 interceptions off of tip balls. Just I appreciate Brock Purdy running around looking for the big play, but I promise you it's okay to throw the ball away if there's nothing there. I promise you. And there was one scenario, and it was in the second half, where he took a sack instead, and that seemed ill-timed too, because you think about the fact, hey, you don't have a kicker and you just lost a bunch of yardage. At the very least, you could give yourself a better chance at converting a 4th down if you don't take that sack as far as you did. I think it was a 4th and 26, right? That they, obviously didn't convert. So I wasn't happy with the performance of the offense in particular. I just think there was no excuses. This was a bottom 5 defense of the Cardinals. There's no excuse for the 49ers to not stomp them in this game and to only have one touchdown to show for it. even when your back is against the wall and you know you have to score some points because you don't have a kicker like that, that just blows, man.
It does. But the good thing is you're doing this now in week 5, not week 16, right? Now, you never want to lose a game like this. And at some point, the losses start to stack up. This, like, the fact that this team is 2-3 is mind blowing. They should be 4-1, right? With the Rams game, just easily, right? And shoot, they were in that Minnesota game. But guess what? More mistakes, right? As far as Brock goes, listen, I thought the first half, he had a great first half, wasn't quite as accurate. Like on a regular Brock day, I feel like he's got like 300 yards of total offense by himself. But he had 249 yards by himself in the first half, right? So the first half I thought was fine, right? Second half, you get a tip ball, interception, right? And then there was just throws, like even Brady made a mention of it in the podcast. And I agree, like there were throws where he usually has. You combine that with a few drops. On that last pick, he had George wide open, but guess what? They cover the wrong guy coming up the middle. He gets hit. What can you do about that, right? So it's like, and they still have to go down and get within the 10-yard line for Mitch to make a field goal, right? So it was an LOL, right? It was just like, of course, like, that's how it's going to end. It's right there for the taking. I guarantee you they're going to see these guys again. They're going to smash them later in the season, right? So it's just like, again, I know that football is an every week thing, and I've seen great teams look like trash on any given week, right? I've also seen trash teams look good on any given week, right? So let's not discredit like the Cardinals either. I think like they have their offense should be a top 10 offense talent-wise. I think coaching-wise, like there are things I don't think they're a complete football team coaching-wise. When you see a play action pass on 3rd and 7 in a red zone situation, that's not NFL coaching. That's not good enough for junior college coaching, right? So, the Cardinals, like, good for them. They made it happen. James Conner's a hell of a player. We knew that. And he took it to us today that he wore down the defense. The defense was tired. It's heat. It happens. Nobody wants to hear excuses, but listen, it's just the truth of the matter. So again, to put a button on it, things are going to happen. This first 5 games have been a disaster. Better to have it happen now than later. But a tough one to take nonetheless.
Yeah, because I commend you for your positivity, Adam, but it's just like these are like kinds of losses that you just can't have. Like I just will not accept them, especially when 2 weeks ago you were in a very similar situation with the Rams and you couldn't put them away, a lesser team, and 2 weeks later you're like in the same boat, another division game, lesser team, like you had it up in the fourth half, 85% or something like that win probability halfway through the fourth quarter. How do you drop that game? James Conner, yes, great. 9 yards in the first half, 75 yards plus in the second half. The amount of missed tackles that I saw was, again, unacceptable. And I get that heat played a role. It absolutely played a role because the temperature went up quite a bit in the second half. And that's when the time of possession went a little more towards the Cardinals' favor, and you had the 49ers defense out on the field. But man, it's just like you're there. Like it's the mental mistakes. It's the just not being able to finish. And so that to me is very frustrating about this team, like so far this season. It's like it doesn't feel like they've had a complete win, even like in this entire season so far. I mean, they only have had 2 wins, but even in the losses, like it doesn't feel like they've put everything together yet. And that's very frustrating because this is a really good roster. Just went to the Super Bowl earlier this season. I can't accept the loss like this. Like it's mind-boggling. And yeah, I have no words for it.
Yeah, listen, it's been disastrous. They haven't hit on all cylinders. They're not the team that they were last year. It doesn't help when you don't have your best offensive player, right? But like I said, these things happen. It's just like as a player, as a coach, what is your mentality week to week? Nameless We got to go play another opponent. We got to prepare. It doesn't matter who we're playing. We got to prepare the same way, be the same way, right? And guess what? This just happened. What better opportunity to go back and put a complete football game together than a hurting Seahawks team on Thursday Night Football? The Niners are a second half of the season team. Any way we want to slice it, they always play their best football the last like 3 years in a row. Shoot, when Brock Purdy took over, this team was what, 3-3 or something like that, right? They were 500 and he led them on an absolute scorcher, right? So where my positivity comes from, Steph, is I've seen them put it together before many, many times in different ways with different quarterbacks, right? So I'm going to keep the faith. Might be crazy to say. I think defensively it's tough, right? I think people downplay the fact that they don't have Dre Greenlaw in there, especially against a guy like Kyler Murray, man. You saw it on that touchdown run.
Devondre
Campbell is, yeah. It's tough, right? And as I mentioned, he's the guy they trust, and that's why he keeps getting reps, because the younger guys are just not trustworthy enough, apparently, right? But this is a game to me where if I'm huddling with the coaching staff, I go, we got to have speed on the field. If we're going against Kyler Murray's going to beat us. He's going to beat us with his legs and big plays downfield, and we can't have guys that are running a 5-flat 40 out there. It's just not going to happen. So, questionable. I would love to know what's happening in the linebacker meetings. All I got to say, right? But again, trust is a big thing at that level. Like, who do you trust to be out there? Who do you trust? Now, Devondre Campbell may not be Fred Warner, but does he make like massive mistakes, right? These are things you just don't see behind the scenes. You could see those younger cats in practice. You didn't see the huge touchdown when they filled the wrong gap. Big gashing touchdown, right? Or they missed their assignment and coverage and they're letting the running back scamper 50 yards upfield because they blew those are things you can't really divulge during the game. So once again, they're working out the kinks. Hopefully they work them out. If not, oh well, it'll be real interesting. That's for sure.
So a couple things that I want to go back to that you mentioned. The Seahawks, literally as we were talking here, crazy play happened. They were down 3 to the New York Giants.
But of course,
they were about to kick a field goal. That field goal gets blocked, returned for a touchdown. So the Giants go up 29-20 in the final moments of that game. So that's crazy. Yeah. So, things are correcting themselves in Seahawks world. So yes, I agree. They have an opportunity to make a statement, turn some things around. What I'm not encouraged by is that, look, you wanted to, 1, win this game. Like, that would have been nice. But 2, you want to get out of it, like, relatively healthy, knowing that you have a game on Thursday. We talked about Jake Moody already. Kyle Shanahan speaking with the media right now. It's a high ankle sprain for Jake Moody. So that's not good. And it was his kicking leg, right? So that might, obviously going to have him out for some weeks. And so 49ers going to have to Robbie Gold time. I don't know. Robbie Gold obviously retired.
Call that guy. He's in Cancun somewhere, man.
Yeah, call him up. It might be worth
the phone ringing.
Worth the call. But in all likeliness, probably getting a free agent, signing someone off a practice squad, something like that, but that's less than ideal, obviously, for him. There's a few guys who exited this game, but I think they came back like Jair Brown, I think was out for a bit, but he finished the game. And so I'm trying to see if there's any other injury updates from the game, but I'm not seeing any yet. But if there are any other comments, then I will bring those up. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's less than ideal, right? To have your kicker go out in the game. Now he's going to be out for at least a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. So yeah, it's just I don't even know what to say. Adam, I get it. Like, the 49ers are going to lose games. Like, I understand that. Every team loses games, even the really good ones, all right? But I guess, like, I'm so hung up, and I can't get over the fact that they're losing the games that they should be winning, all right? Oh. Aside from maybe the Vikings game. They're 5-0, right? Like, they look great. Okay, fine. Yeah. I'll move that one aside. but Rams, Cardinals, divisional opponents, no less. Like that's concerning to me because yes, they're a second half of the season team. Yes, they've done this many times before, but in the past, like I don't recall them being down in the division like this much. So that's the thing that concerns me. You're really putting your back against the wall. And look, we're a little over a quarter of the season, so there is time, but how long are you gonna keep doing this before you eventually run out of time? I think that's the question. And Jason has a question here. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Can we finally put Kyle on the hot seat, Jed?" Oof. I don't know if I'm there yet. It'll take me a long time to get there. I'm just not there. What about you, Adam?
It's funny. Before Jason said that comment, I just had the thought in the back of my head. Of course, this is how, this is what happens to NFL head coaches. They have everything goes wrong type season, and then people panic, right? And go, hey, this guy's got to go. Listen, Shanny's not perfect. He really isn't. But I just don't see a better replacement personally, right? If we can just talk about Kyle Shanahan as a head coach. We take, and keep in mind, like when I was a kid, the Niners were the laughing stock of the NFL, right? 2-14 season, 4-12. You got Mike Singletary with the crazy post-game pressers. Mike Nolan had no clue how to be a head coach, right? So, and all I wanted as a kid, right, was the Niners to return to being a class organization. Of course, I want a Super Bowl, but like I wanted, I wanted to see the Niners that my dad got to watch, right? And what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have done is restored this team to close to that echelon. Shoot, a few Super Bowl mishaps away from being two-time champs, right? I'm proud of this organization. I'm proud of having Kyle Shanahan as my head coach. Is he perfect? No, but got news for you. No head coach is. I promise you, right? Now, if you've got a better suggestion than Kyle Shanahan, I'm all ears. I really am. But at this point in time, it didn't feel like Kyle Shanahan was the reason they lost this game. Shoot, did Kyle Shanahan fumble the ball? Right? Like no, right? Did Kyle Shanahan have, hurt the kicker? No, right? Now, did I think some passing, the passing concepts are lacking with Kyle Shanahan, right? It's not his strength, right? I've watched enough film to tell you, right, that is the weak point in the offense. And what's more, when you see like the mishaps with Kyle, it's because he's the OC. That's the problem with being the OC as the head coach is your game, like the head coach duties that go along with being an offensive coordinator, they lack, right? When to call a timeout, right? Game clock situations, different things that require you to take off your OC headset, put your head coach cap on. It lacks. I've seen it so many different times, right? So, yes, like he's not immune from criticism, but what irks me and really unsettles me is this, let's just blame Kyle, right? Like when things are not going wrong, let's just like put the blinders on and blame Kyle. And I don't think that's always what's happening, but I do feel some of the criticism is unwarranted. And some, like, you have to understand, like, life could be a lot worse without Kyle Shanahan, right? And you have to respect what he's built with this 49ers organization.
Yeah, and Jason's follow-up to that is, I don't buy that who's better crap at him. Sorry, it's up to Jed to find one. That's his goddamn job. And my brother says Bill Belichick, he's out there, but hey, I'm with you. Like, again, I'm not there on the Kyle Shanahan thing yet. If we have a collapse of a season, then maybe I'll be there by the end of the season, maybe, but I'm not there yet. It's a little premature for me. I understand the frustration. Again, I think this loss is inexcusable. It has to fall on someone. If it's going to fall on someone, like usually the head coach is the one it's going to fall on, if not one particular player, usually. So I understand it. Again, I'm just not there yet. The good thing is we were talking about the NFC West. Rams also lost at home. So the only NFC West team that won this weekend for the Arizona Cardinals, and it's a very close race between a lot of these teams because, again, like a lot of them have the same records. So Stud Shady in the comments asks, how does losing to divisional rivals affect our chances down the road pertaining to the playoffs? Like it does, but like as of right now, it's still a pretty close race. So the 49ers, the way I see it, they could very well be ahead in the NFC West and probably up there with the Seahawks, but they're not because of these two losses between the Rams and the Cardinals. I hate that, like I hate that they put themselves in that position. They could still turn it around. Thursday is a great opportunity for that against the Seahawks. So it has to happen. It has to happen. So if this team is a team that's better with their back against the wall, all right, like let's see it. Like show me. Yeah. And like I said, we need a better game from the offense. Like that's I can't dispute that. We need a better game from the offense. Need a better game from the special teams. Good job, on the blocked punt. Blocked field goal. Appreciate that. It's a big play. So I got to give them credit because I've been ripping on special teams all year. But that was a good play. It was just unfortunate that a bad play, literally right after that by special teams, is what led to the Jake Moody injury because Jake Moody had a tackle, had to make a tackle on someone. So yeah, very, very unfortunate. Look, there's a couple things I want to talk about here. Was this the Brandon Ayuk breakout game for the 49ers? I know it's unfortunate it happened in a loss, but 8 catches, 147 yards. He had 91 yards in the first half alone. I would have really liked to see him get more involved in the second half. So I'm very curious to watch the tape and see what the Cardinals did in the second half to maybe, defend him a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to see. I think it was validating for a lot of fans who have been saying Brandon Ayuk, he's due for a game. Like he's not the issue.
Yeah. And listen, he's a great player. It definitely looked like the BA of old. I think common sense would tell you that he was going to get there anyway, right? He's 26, 27 years old. It's not like we signed a 30-year-old to a max contract extension. We signed a guy in his prime years, right? So listen, if you don't go through camp, you're going to be rusty. You don't get those reps. Nobody hits the ground running. Absolutely nobody is in their peak form at that point. So, hey, let's build one game at a time. And I think we take the whole team maybe can take a page out of Brandon Ayuk's book in terms of, hey, let's keep getting better each and every week. Listen, going into this year, it feels like emblematic of the year, right? If the Niners are getting back to the Super Bowl this year, I don't think there's no way they were going to have a repeat of last year. Just no way. They're too old. They're playing too deep in the season. I knew if they're going to go back to the Super Bowl, which is a low probability, by the way, it's a low probability for a reason. If they were going to do that, it was going to be they sneak into the playoffs, have an up and down season, battle adversity here and there, but don't let these 49ers in the playoffs. That's all I got to say, right? If the NFC knows what's good for them, which they don't, because the rest of the NFC stinks right now, right? So what better situation? Again, I'm bringing the positivity, but I can't help it. And also, I'm just calling it like it is, right? And with this Niners team, they play their best ball at the back end of the season. So hopefully Brandon Ayuk's on that same page. Hopefully the Niners get on that same page too. We're going to learn a lot Thursday. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we definitely will. And look, as I was kind of scrolling through Twitter here because I was trying to see what Kyle Shanahan said in his presser. Again, for those of you that missed it, high ankle sprain for Jake Moody. The other injury that I was thinking of was Talanoa Hufanga. He exited this game with a wrist injury, and then he was downgraded to out. I haven't seen any updates from Kyle Shanahan or any of the beat reporters who were there. So I don't know, but obviously that meant more Malik Mustafa, which, I think I'm pleasantly surprised, not surprised, but I am a fan of seeing him out there. And I think with more time, he's going to get better and better. it's been tough for Talanoa Hufanga so far this season. Look, he rejoined the team in like week 3, gets hurt the following week. So like it's been very discombobulated for Talanoa Hufanga so far this season. He hasn't exactly put it all together because he hasn't had enough time to really like get into a rhythm since coming back. So I feel for him there, and now he's hurt again. But Malik Mustafa obviously going to get an opportunity here if Talanoa Hufanga continues to miss some time. And that is one thing I'm looking forward to. I like to see that. I also like that Kyle Shanahan involved Isaac Garendo because I think we all thought he'd be in the doghouse by now with some of the mistakes that he's made, and it hasn't always looked clean for him. But I like the involvement again, maybe more so based on the need, just because it was so hot and you needed someone to spell Jordan Mason, but. It could have been Patrick Taylor. It could have been, they could have signed someone else. So I think it shows confidence in Garendo. I do appreciate that. And D Winters too. Like I like D Winters. Like him and Mustafa just look like heat-seeking missiles out there. And they play football in a very old school kind of way. Like they want to hit someone so bad. They're thumpers. And man, they bring the pain. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys get more time, seeing this defense kind of evolve a little bit. I thought there were some timely blitzes from Nick Sorensen in this game. I want to see more of that. I think as the season goes on, we'll see this defense get a little bit better. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think Sorensen called a fine game. I mean, he can't go out there and make the tackles, right? He did what he needed to do. There was nothing schematically that I saw was an issue. I thought he brought heat when appropriate. Shoot, he gave Brock Purdy a chance, right? He and the defense, they got that stop when they needed it to, got the ball back in Brock Purdy's hands, and we didn't convert, right? Niners didn't convert. So I've had no qualms really with Sorensen so far. And I think as they get healthier, it'll only get better. But, touching on Malik Mustafa, there's signs of like, yeah, this is going to be a guy. And then there's times where I'm like, his open field tackling is not as good as I thought it was going to be, especially when you're especially when you're a little bit undersized as a safety. You got to make look at Jair Brown in the fitting up in the box, right? And I think even he sometimes gets broke off in the outfield, in the open field too. Listen, open field tackling is really hard, and there's not many people who are lights out in the open field, right? Patrick Willis was one of them. That's why he's got a gold jacket, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. My mind goes kind of skips ahead a lot to the Chiefs matchup, right? What happens when they have big 6'7" Travis Kelce out there, and you've got two safeties that are not even 6 foot, right? That's a matchup issue. And we'll see how Sorensen deals with that. But I have a critical eye on him. I'm a fan. I always have been a fan, and I loved his college tape. I thought, hey, he's got speed, and anytime you can add that equation to the safety position, he's a physical dude too. So I think he has that great dynamic. And listen, we're lucky to have him because of the Hufanga injury. And I feel just so bad for Huff. Cannot put any kind of consistency together because of injuries. So hopefully it's nothing serious and he can get back out there. But if it is, Mustafa's going to have to step up big.
Yeah, definitely will. So it's good if he can continue to improve each and every week. My dad in the live chat asks, I have to acknowledge my dad in the live chat. He says the big question is, how do you explain 6 times in the red zone and coming up empty? Not completely empty. They had the 1 touchdown. But look, in the second half, the 49ers offense, 2 interceptions, turnover on downs, fumble. That's one way to do it. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe to come up empty in the second half. The 49ers were shut out in the second half. That's so inexcusable. Rare. Again, it's rare, but it's been an issue for the 49ers this season. How much of that are we kind of blaming that on Christian McCaffrey not being there? I feel like that's a cop-out, but I want to know your opinion, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, he's the ultimate red zone threat. And I just wrote down this note right here, CMC. man. He is the ultimate red zone cheat code and equalizer, right? You can cover all things, but when you've got a running back who runs routes like a wide receiver running a Texas route against a linebacker, right? What's a Texas route? He goes, real simply goes through the trenches, breaks out wide, then cuts right back in. There are maybe a handful of linebackers in the NFL who can even cover that route, right? And when you got a guy like CMC running that, like, forget it, right? And he's running all sorts of routes and causing headaches for the defense. Oh, wait, you got George Kittle, right? Oh, wait, you got B.A., Jawan. Like, yeah, you're going to be one of the best red zone teams in the NFL. And that's what they were last year when they were fully healthy. Now, for me, what I'd love to see on tape is what are the passing concepts what passing concepts are we going to in the red zone? Because just based off the replay, what I saw, guys were not open. Right. And I think Brock even started to get impatient and started trying to force the issue at times. George had that one ball he dropped and it was a perfect throw from Purdy, right? Which we always, we forget about after a loss like this. Right. But again, it's hard to be elite offensively in the NFL, and Brock and this offense has been so good for so long, putting up points, right? Now, they've been putting up 45 points and said no, but they've been consistently putting up around 30 points a game, right? Since Brock took over, they've been operating at such a high level, and this is an absolute rarity for Brock in this offense. What did it take? A couple of fluke tip interceptions and then a Jordan Mason fumble. Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, if you got to have this thing happen, it makes sense that it happened the way it did. If Brock, like, there's no way. Look, Tom Brady's in the booth, and he'd be the first one to tell you that you just can't be freaking Tom Brady every Sunday. We watched Tom Brady throw 4 picks against this Niners defense against Brock Purdy, right? It happens. You watch Aaron Rodgers, like, tell me Aaron Rodgers is a bad quarterback, but go watch the game today, right? Where he throws the pick 6, right? Only a handful of pick 6s in his career. So it happens. Things like this happen. And until the Niners fluke out and put a whole bunch of losses together and become this team that's nowhere near the playoffs, I'm going to keep that faith, right? And I think they will get it together at some point. Hopefully injury luck is on their side, and I think that would help tremendously. Either way, I'm going to keep the faith until then.
Yeah, again, I commend you, Adam. You're better than I am right now, but you're giving me a bit of the silver lining to look towards, and
drinking the Kool-Aid I'm putting out.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's hard. This team has been here before. I think that's why I get so frustrated, because they've been here before. I hate when they do this. I hate it, and it seems like they do it every season. I don't want it to be normalized. And yes, things are a little bit tougher for this offense without, Christian McCaffrey. I think we know that, but you still have all these weapons. You still have Kyle Shanahan. Like, what is the issue, right? So they got to figure something out. And what I need to see, I don't know how soon we're going to see this, because again, like, I feel like in each game we've seen different glimpses, different things going right, and then the other side of it goes wrong, and then vice versa in another game. Like, you never have a complete game from this team so far. We need to see that. Like, and again, on a short week, I'm not counting on that being against the Seattle Seahawks. But if you could just get out of there with a win, I don't care what it looks like at this point. It could be the ugliest win in all of history. Hey, the Cardinals did it today. If you just make it happen, that's what I want to see. And then they got a mini bye. So everyone's looking towards this mini bye after the Thursday night football game against the Seahawks. And then maybe that gives you a little extra time to work out some kinks and see what can be better, because boy, do they need it. I mean, throughout this week, I'm going to be talking about how this team can improve and maybe potential trade targets and all that. So this is just the beginning of what's going to be a long conversation throughout the week on my show, 49 Carats. But Adam, Thank you for joining me, trying to keep it positive. You know, I appreciate that. Yeah, you're trying. You're doing some heavy lifting over there. We appreciate it. And thank you, everyone in the live chat. As I said earlier, look, you're not mad at me. So come on, give me some likes on this video, just like we always do. You're mad at the 49ers. So in fact, take your anger out on the like button if you wish. And audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review, smash that subscribe button too if you haven't yet. Because like I said, you know what we're going to be talking about all this week. And so if you're angry at the 49ers, hey, sure, I got a spot for you as a listener on this show. But for now, try to have a good rest of your Sunday, folks. For me, from Adam, peace.